This video will cover how to add a metric into the Raydiant Employee Experience platform using Salesforce reporting. To begin, we will start on the configuration page and we will navigate to the Salesforce integration. Anytime you're bringing in a report from Salesforce, you're always going to start in the Salesforce integration. To navigate there, we can click on the integrations icon, or we can scroll down on that left-hand navigation bar to the Salesforce integration. We are going to be adding the report into the metric sources for users area. Just as a recap, the report you're bringing in should be in summary format, meaning only grouped by one item, and that grouping should be a user lookup field. Any metric that you're planning to bring into Raydiant EX should be summarized and brought into this subtotal line. You can do sums, medians, max, and averages. If we look at the report in the edit mode, you'll see that we only have one grouping under the rows. And if we look at the amount, you'll see that we have summarized the sum. The report is now ready to be brought into Raydiant EX. So we will add our metric sources for users by clicking the Add button, locating that test report. And as you can see, we have our record count and our sum of amount, which are the two fields that we had available. To add this report to Raydiant EX, we will create new metrics. We will almost always be creating a new metric because a metric within Raydiant EX is a storage place for that metric. So each metric that we bring into Raydiant EX needs to have its own unique name. You can create that name by clicking on Create New Metric and giving it a name. It is very important to use a good naming convention when you are naming things. So since this is the sum of the amount and that report was a quarterly report, we're going to name this Revenue QTD. You can add other modifiers like new revenue, renewal revenue, anything that fully explains what you are mapping in. A good rule of thumb is to think about if someone came in to work behind you, would they know what this was simply by looking at the list? Once we have given this metric a name, we're going to determine how often we want to sync. You have multiple options. These do affect your API credits. So in general, most things work fine with a 15-minute sync, but something like a calls today metric might be a 5-minute sync. We'll choose 15. We'll say, okay, we're not going to add in the record count this time, but we could. You don't have to bring in all of the available metrics if you don't want to. So again, we'll say okay, and we're going to save. This is a double save page. EX is going to process that report. When we go over to the metrics and uploads section, you'll see that our revenue QTD is now there. It's still waiting on the report to process, but as soon as that report is processed, you will see that the data has been brought in and it will show for any users that have numbers. That metric is now available to be used as metric steps, leaderboards, or for news flashes within the system. And you will repeat that process for any other metrics that you would like to bring in. That is how you bring in a metric from a Salesforce report into the Raydiant Employee Experience platform. If you have any questions, you can always reach us at support.raydiant.com or click the Chat with an Expert button in the bottom right-hand corner to speak with one of our live agents.